trash. Well, it's time to jump into the fire again. There's a certain show I've had on the back burner for quite some time now. Ed, and Eddy. This animated show debuted in 1999 during what many would consider Cartoon Network's golden age. Shows like Dexter's Laboratory, Johnny Bravo, and the Powerpuff Girls were creatively written and for a while began to show Western audiences that animation could appeal to all ages. But this one, yeah, I'm not a big fan of it. Part of it may have to do with the animation that often looks like the artists drink way too much cappuccino, but mostly it's a show that to me features bad jokes, mean-spirited stories, mostly sophomoric humor, and main characters I have a hard time getting behind. And I'm not alone, because I've gotten requests to review this show. So why did I wait this long? Well, it does have a pretty strong fan base that I'd risk pissing off, although that hasn't stopped me before, and I was surprised to discover that it actually had 6 seasons, making it last longer than most of what I reviewed, although that hasn't stopped me before. But hopefully I can compromise by looking at one episode that even a lot of the biggest fans of the show seem to look on with disgust. This is If It Smells Like an Ed. Oh, that's a lovely image to start the episode on.
Brother Ralph, are you trying to weasel out of your friendship duties?
So we begin without the titular Eds, but rather the rest of the kids in the cul-de-sac, building this monument to friendship and pouring on so much saccharin that you could risk diabetes.
Sister Sarah? Yes, Brother Jimmy? Gotcha!
For those who haven't watched the show, the ringleader of this project is Jimmy, a complete wimp who wears a retainer and has a crush on Sarah, who is an absolute bully in her own right and is Ed's sister. The Ed with one D. I'll get to that in a moment. Johnny lives in his own little world and his best friend is a wooden plank with a face drawn on it. Dude, get a plush animal. They make much better companions. Naz is basically the Daphne of the group. She doesn't really have much of a personality and is supposedly just there to be a pretty face. At least as much as this animation style can show. Kevin is a total jock and loves acting like a big shot and picking on our main characters whether they deserve it or not. And then there's Rolf, some kind of immigrant kid that in this episode does nothing but snack on these candies called jujubes. And yes, this is a plot element because I don't believe he's shown having an addiction to these things before or since.
Let's hold hands, Brother Kevin, and sing an ode of joy to friendship. Get it, Brother Jimmy? When you stub your toe and it hurts, you know, friends are there to help you. When you tip on your face and your teeth on your face, friends are there to help you.
So after they make the population of Whoville look butch by comparison, our 3 main characters finally appear.
You gotta be kidding me! It's so delicate!
Just reach out and touch someone!
Whatever you say, friend!
I've been wetted!
Our protagonists, everyone! Okay, finishing the roll call with our 3 alliterative main guys, Mr. Wedgie is Eddy, the ringleader of the threesome, who mostly thinks of plans to scam the kids out of their money that he can then use to buy jawbreakers. And he doesn't do that in this episode, so I just wasted your time. Ed with one D is Sarah's brother, a big oaf who acts like his parents dropped him as a baby. Several times. For fun. And finally, Ed with 2 Ds is a high-maintenance worrywart who is supposedly the most intelligent of the group. And to separate him from the big Ed, everyone calls him Double D in one of the most blatant innuendos to make it past the censors since Choky Chicken. So after the whole block is finished picking on the littlest one...
Wasn't there a paintbrush here a second ago?
I bet Ed took it! You stole my paintbrush, Ed! Give it back!
Oh no! What will they do without a tool that they were finished using anyway and could replace for $3.99 at Walmart?
Holy cow! Somebody wiped off Wank's mouth! Get me a crayon for crying out loud!
Nurse, get me a blue Crayola! Stop!
What's that rag in your pocket, Double D?
Come on, people! Why would I want to erase Plank's mouth? This isn't my rag! Look! See? You're crying out loud!
What's your name doing on this stick, Eddie?
My name? We're innocent, I tell ya! You guys gotta trust us! How are we supposed to rip you off if you don't trust us?
Come on, Eddie, just wait a week and they'll have forgotten all about it. That's how things work in cartoons, right?
They tried to set us up! I know who did it!
Ed found a footprint obviously left by the perpetrator of these false allegations.
No fooling?
A single footprint with no others continuing forward in a straight line. So clearly the culprit is a one-legged Superman who flew away after doing everything. Trust me, that makes more sense than what it's going to turn out to be.
We'll just match their feet to it and trap the rat!
They'll never agree to this type of verification, Eddie.
To the victor, the spoils will smell! Let's find our rat, Ed!
So they first lure Kevin into checking by making him ogle a picture of Naz in a bikini. You know, I'm guessing if Naz knew they had that pic, she'd put a beating on them. When he doesn't pass, they proceed to use Ed as a whipping boy to get Sarah's footprint. Has anyone stopped to think they might be abusing a mentally disabled kid here? They just keep going to all the trouble to physically check the kid's feet when they should be able to visually tell they don't match. Encyclopedia Brown, these kids are not. Meanwhile, the Eds come across Johnny being tied up and covered in those same jujube candies. And of course, when everyone else finds them, they assume that the Eds are guilty again, even though they were clearly trying to free Johnny, and they form a freaking lynch mob.
Run away!
Get back here!
Make him cry, Kevin, do it!
So as they chase the Eds, we notice that Rolf has some rather large shoes. And oh yeah, he loves those jujubes that we never saw him eat before. I mean, it's not like these writers are smart enough to put in a red herring or anything.
Look! A procession of jujubes! If we follow this trail, it will lead straight to our perpetrator.
Time to squeal on the heel! Ready?
Seriously, get that kid into a program.
It's the perpetrator!
Who is it? I can't see!
Hiya, Rolf!
Rolf?
Rolf! Are you backstabbing two-timing? What's the big idea setting us up?
Sweet nothings will get you everywhere!
Oh God, no! Yes, after everything else, we now have to deal with the absolute worst characters in the whole series. These are the Canker Sisters, a bunch of trailer park harlots in training who sexually harass the Eds in every episode they appear. Because reverse sexual harassment is funny? So now the Eds are in the predicament of being either molested or lynched for crimes they didn't commit. They choose the lynch mob, which if you know anything about the Cankers actually does make sense.
Rolf is confused as to why you provide him with these jujubes. But who's complaining?
Jujubes!
Guess what? I have no idea what you're talking about. Look! A paint-spattered boot!
What?
Why implicate us? Revenge takes no prisoners, Double D!
Revenge? What the heck did we do?
You ruined a perfectly good pair of underpants, you big brute! Oh, the wedgie!
Okay, setting it up so that it looked like Rolf was the culprit, including having the Eds determine it wasn't Jimmy earlier, only to reveal it actually was him all along, was a nice twist. The problem is that the rest of this does not make any damn sense! Even if you ignore the fact that it takes extreme cartoon logic for Jimmy to have pulled off all that in almost no time with so many other kids around without anyone noticing him, and that I'm guessing that Jimmy never showed any type of cleverness in other episodes, let's focus on the motive. There is no reason to do all of this to all three Eds other than guilt by association. It was Eddy who pulled the wedgie. And yes, the other Eds did laugh at him, but so did everyone else. Get revenge on Eddy alone, or everyone in the cul-de-sac, or else your intent is stupid! Oh, and as the cartoon hero pointed out on his worst episodes list, the fact that all those guys did laugh at Jimmy, but then became the moral guardians to go after the Eds after everything else they were framed for, makes them a bunch of damn hypocrites. And apparently getting tied up and tortured isn't enough pain for this evil brat to inflict on the three.
I have a deal to complete.
We aim to please until the rebels, girls!
So yes, Jimmy apparently made a deal that the Cankers would get the Eds in the end anyway, meaning them settling for the crowd's lynching was pointless. And so the episode ends with the Eds likely getting carried off to get raped. Hilarious! This episode can be summed up in 3 words. Suck, suck, and sucky! What was this episode supposed to say? It's supposedly about a wrongful accusation story, but the Eds never get to clear their name in the end. It either comes off as having the heroes of the story getting screwed in the end, or somehow deserving their extremely cruel fate because of one incident earlier, and it's impossible to determine which one the writers meant. So the story comes off as being extremely mean-spirited, even more so than the worst Charlie Brown cartoon in that regard. And this is really a microcosm of why I dislike the show as a whole. It's almost schizophrenic in how it supposedly shows the Eds as crooks and conmen trying to take advantage of everyone else, but are still supposed to be lovable losers that we should root for. And most everyone else in the cast is no better. The cartoon is basically a bunch of jerk kids poking fun, ridiculing, and humiliating each other, and it gets old really, really quickly. I think I'm gonna send a copy of this episode to the National Anti-Bullying Council for them to use in a PSA, and mark that as my good deed for the year. See you next time on TV Trash.